Hello, everyone, and welcome to Phosphorus Live. This is our bi-weekly look at the very interesting world of xIoT, the extended Internet of Things. I'm your host, Mike Huckaby. Typically, I have my partner in crime, our Director of Sales Engineering, James McCarthy, in the show with me, but he is at a customer actually running a proof of concept that's going really, really well, showing and finding and helping to fix devices at a big organization. So we gave him a pass of not having to be here for today. So we're happy to have you join us. Now, we get together like this every 2 weeks to provide a little education on the connected devices that we all use to run our businesses on these days, and to give some insights into what Phosphorus does to help keep those devices secure. Today, we're deviating from our normal format just a little bit as we have an invited guest. We are privileged to have Enrique Martinez on the show today. He's a practice lead for OT and IoT security at Worldwide Technologies. Enrique's a longtime veteran of the cybersecurity world and has a passion for securing all things xIoT. And we feel very fortunate to have him join us and provide some of his insights. So, Enrique, thank you so much for spending some time here with us and joining us on the show today.
No, thank you for having me, Mike. Looking forward to the conversation.
Great. Can you give us just give us a little bit of an overview of your background, where you came from, and what led you to WWT today?
So I've been in the IT field for about 25 years. Started in the financial sector. While I was there, I got into security. I love security. I have a bachelor's in biology. Go figure, right? But I started doing classes for a master's, and I took a class on cybersecurity, or information security, how it was previously known. And I fell in love with it, right? So I found a way of getting into security. I did the standard IT security for a few years, but it was a financial company. And this is where PCI came in. So I actually got into the whole compliance piece of the cybersecurity. Through that, I actually got a job at a utility. And in the utility, it was really more for the compliance program. It was the implementation, the development and implementation of a nuclear cybersecurity program. So got into that, and from there on, it's been fun, right? So 20 years in security, 15 in OT, IoT, and really just securing, right, from an architecture perspective as well as compliance.
Great. And how long have you been with WWT?
5 years now. Yeah, 5 years now.
And by the way, for everybody there, WWT is the acronym we use for Worldwide Technologies. Can you give us just a couple of sentences about what WWT does?
So WWT, Worldwide Technology, it's a 34-year-old company, $20 billion a year company, and we are services oriented as well as integrators. So it's really just anywhere from, someone called it, from the carpeted space all the way to the light pole, right? We do services, whether it is in AI, in general IT security, OT security, as well as usual, data center builds, as well as distribution services for our customers.
And you're global, right?
We are global. Present in pretty much every continent except for Africa and Antarctica. We have offices and distribution centers, or our integration centers, because they're not really distribution centers. This is where we get customer equipment, we burn it in, we rack it, stack it, configure it, and then ship it to customers. And we have one here in the United States, in Illinois. We have one in Mumbai, one in Amsterdam, and there's another one I'm missing. So, we're worldwide.
Cool. And so, and what do you, as a practice lead there, what is your responsibility?
So as a practice lead, when I first started here, we didn't really have an OT security practice. We had OT customers, just general customers,
Right.
right? But we did not really focus in OT. I worked at a utility. I worked there for a while. I learned a lot. And I said, everything that I've learned here, because utilities have had to mature through regulation. I know there's all these other customers that don't have that benefit, right? So I need to go
Right.
somewhere where I can help. This is where I came here, and my goal has been from day one, build a lab where we can actually prove technologies, allow customers to test the technologies, put hands on prior to making a purchase. I call it, getting the bias, the marketing bias out of the equation, right? Because to me, it's a much better way of serving my customers.
Yeah. I can see, especially when you have vendors like us who are just going like, "Hey, buy our stuff," and people need to be able to come to you to be able to say, "Let's look at reality and what's going to be the best for me in regards to all the technology that I can go out there and choose." Right?
This is where the rubber meets the road, right? Yeah, you tell me your technology is great. Well, I invite you as my partner. Let's go put it here. Let's test it. Let's actually, prove your claims. And that's what we do. And
Yeah.
some partners will make it, others will unfortunately not necessarily make it. But in addition to that, I look for new ways of using your technology, right? Your technology is one solution. I call this my integration lab. So I start looking for alternative ways, better ways of call it adding different solutions to come up with strategic solutions, something that
Okay.
that will actually move the needle. It's like the sum of the parts is much bigger than those parts themselves.
So I know audience here is peeking over your shoulder at everything that you have behind us. So can you give us a little bit walkthrough of what you've got? What are you showing in your lab there behind us?
Yeah, so this is version 3.0 of the lab. I started with a virtual lab, then version 1.0 was just this rack. Version 2.0, it's all that you have see here, plus a couple more things. They're not here right now because we're right now moving to our version 3.0, which is it's going to be our solutions showcase. We call it the Worldwide Industry Solutions Center, where we have verticalized stations, if you will, and we build those solutions. It will encompass security, infrastructure, wireless communications, think private LTE, as well as data analytics, right? What do we do with the data? However, what you see here is kind of like my base lab. There's on my right here, it's a building management system. On my left is a miniature air handling control system. And really all we're doing is using the systems to generate real world data, as you would see at a customer, to be able to show solutions. Usually it's going to be segmentation, access, visibility. There's a lot more, but those are usually the main three buckets that we first engage with customers, right? So that's what you're going to see. Now, the last one that we're hitting on a lot right now, it's remediation, right?
Oh
Remediation
yeah.
is something that when we start engaging with customers, they'll tell you, hey, I want visibility or I want segmentation. Usually they come in
Right.
through segmentation. The problem with segmentation is you ask the question, what do you have? Do you know what you have? Do you know where it is? And they'll tell you, no. How
Mm-hmm.
about your architecture? How are you architected? Well, we've grown organically over years. I can give you some drawings, but they're probably not accurate, right? This is where configuration control is very important control as we grow. Many cases, unless you are heavily regulated, it doesn't happen, right? So as we go through the journey of, okay, where are you? They want to do segmentation. Sometimes they're like, oh, I want micro segmentation. Okay, before you do that, you need to understand what you have. What is it doing?
Right.
Understand your, I'll call it your threat vectors and your attack surface. Because if you don't understand what you're doing, the solution won't fit your problem, right? We
Right.
need to be outcome oriented, outcome based. So that's one of those things, right? It's like understand your environment before you're able to do or make those changes. Otherwise, the change is not going to fit.
Right. So just going into that, when you start off and you start saying, okay, well, we need to figure out what you have. What's your approach then to be able to get that information and get that data, so then you can start making other recommendations?
So historically, we've gone down the path of passive visibility solutions, right?
Okay.
Put sensors on your network, let them listen, look at the traffic, make determinations, and then move forward. The problem that I'm seeing with this is these solutions are really good for threat detection because they will see it and they will tell you, hey, there's threat right here, right? If you
Right.
put
Right.
it in your convergence point between IT and OT, a choke point in your network, put it
Right.
maybe in front of your crown jewels, you'll get
Right.
immediate benefit. The problem that I'm seeing with passive visibility is the time that it takes to fully deploy in a reliable manner. It could be, it could be up to 5 years, right? You start
Right.
top to bottom, you start at that core, then move over to maybe distribution, then to access.
Right.
Even then, if you put as many sensors as you can, in many cases you don't get full visibility because you
Right.
have all these devices that might talk in an unmanaged switch and never talk out, so you don't
Right.
an idea of what's going on with your assets, right? So now we're moving more into it was forbidden. You do not touch these devices. Well, now
Mhm.
we found the ways to actively query them, right? In a safe manner and get the information we need to at least get a good idea of what your assets are.
Yeah.
And to me, that's required. Without that,
Yeah.
we cannot really build these programs.
So I've run into this quite often. Even though you don't know what you have and you're trying to get a handle on it, things change every day as well. Somebody plugs in something new. I buy a new tool and plug it in. And so my environment is dynamic as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
So anything that, if I'm trying to get my arms around it, today it looks like one thing, but tomorrow it looks like something could be very different. And so how do you go through and help organizations manage that?
So obviously, you need to have an element of continuous monitoring, right? Whether it's doing multiple passes on your network, whether it is continuously monitoring your network. However, there's all the challenges
Mm-hmm.
depending on your architecture. Architecture is going to be one of your biggest threats and one of your biggest problems, because depending on your architecture, your solution might work 100% or might never work, right?
Right.
So as we continue with that, I think, what I like to focus on with customers is, you know, awareness. Awareness. Be aware of what you have. It all starts with awareness, threat vectors,
Sure.
attack surface, your architecture, right? Then vulnerabilities. Then think about your configuration or lack of configuration, right? Any open ports, lack of hardening of devices. And then lastly, which is one of the most difficult to control, is going to be insider threat. And I say insider threat not in the fact that you have an adversary inside. It is, we have people and there's accidents. Accidents happen. In most cases, all these compromises happen because someone's trying to do the right thing, but they're not aware, right? Aware of the consequences.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's one of the biggest ones, right? So I will tell you all those, the architecture, vulnerability, configuration, I will
Yeah.
tie all that to awareness. You need to be aware.
And you mentioned well, at least from the insider thread, what other kind of key attack vectors are you seeing, especially when it's regard to the OT and IoT environment? What other attack vectors do you see from being compromised?
Well, and as I was mentioning, right? your architecture sucks, right? How do you architect your assets? Are you exposing your PLCs or your critical assets to the internet, right? You have
Right.
open ports. Are you patching? Do you have
Mm.
those vulnerabilities, right? Vulnerabilities are going to be always there. You need to get a handle of them, right? You'll always have zero trust, sorry, 0 days, right?
Right.
However, do your best to keep that risk profile low, right?
Right.
And it is going to be by knowing what you have and then managing its threat profile.
Yeah. So you mentioned that one of your key focuses right now is on remediation. So can you give us a little bit more on what that focus is right now?
So, I told you, right? Segmentation, let's reduce blast radius, blah, 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 blah,
Hmm.
no problem, right? Well, in order to do that, you need to do visibility. They will put a visibility solution, whatever it is. And the problem that we see is that then they start discovering all these vulnerabilities that they didn't know they had. And then they're like, okay, now I know I have 10,000 vulnerabilities in this network that I didn't know yesterday. What do I do now?
Yeah.
How do I get a handle of this? Because in many cases, you're talking about unmanaged devices or unmanageable devices
Right.
by the traditional term, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
devices. It could be a little hockey puck with an Ethernet jack or a wireless connection, and there's no interface. You cannot manage it directly the way you do your workstations, right? So
Right.
so that's one piece that they come back and they say, okay, I need to manage this. We have critical vulnerabilities and we don't want to be exposed, right? And
Right.
now your biggest risk is going to be to any organization, it's going to be ransomware, right?
Okay.
Which is why we're talking about segmentation. However,
Right.
ransomware will probably be a combination of exploits that will, bust open a system and then attack it, right? Then from
Right.
there, once I gain a foothold on your network on like say a security camera that got put there 5 years ago and nobody ever touched it because it's working, right?
Yeah.
Now that security camera has some sort of malware that has unfettered access to that network, right? So now I can look on each side of myself. Do I have any more cameras? Okay, compromise those cameras. What else can I compromise, right? And then if there is a ransomware payload, when I find the right target, I will detonate, right? And now all of a
Right.
sudden I lost my systems. So when we're talking about that, and to me, between ransomware and the data compromises that keep
Right.
coming out daily,
Yeah.
those are scary, right? Because it just keeps
Yeah.
happening. It keeps
Yeah.
happening. And the problem is people are now thinking, well, how do I stop this? Let's start doing
Right.
segmentation. But you're not addressing the other parts of the equation.
Right. Right. So WWT ends up being asked to come in and do segmentation for organizations frequently.
Yeah, segmentation is one of the biggest asks. The between segmentation, which I tell you, you need to step back and look at
Right.
visibility, awareness. What are your assets? Then you can move to segmentation. Then maybe secure access, right? Because why close everything down and then poke holes through their firewall? Now
Yeah.
you're
Yeah. Yeah.
increasing that risk that you just closed. So now
Right.
you're having to do secure access, right? But then as part of that, now they're realizing that, hey, we have all this other hygiene assets that we
Right.
need to control, right? Uh,
Right.
so we go into actually managing the asset level risk,
Okay.
right? Credential rotations, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Patching, and whether you can patch the asset or not, right? You're going to have some industrial environments where you cannot touch
Yeah.
the asset until the next cycle, or, it might be an engineering change or something like that. Fine. but then at least you're aware, and now you can put compensating controls, whether it is virtual
Right.
patching, so on and so forth, isolating the asset, depending on the mission of that asset.
We've talked quite often on this show just about some of the CISA guidance that's come out around how to make sure that these devices, embedded devices, unmanaged devices, actually you could start doing some work and control on it. One of the things that I see, though, it seems to be a bit overwhelming, and you've kind of talked about this a little bit, especially if you start having awareness. Then that next decision that says, these are the things that I actually need to take care of, seem to be a bit overwhelming. Like there's the amount of person hours it might take to do remediation seems like if that a lot of organizations, I think, are shying away from it, and they continue to just, as I say, put their head in the sand because it just seems like it's too hard. So how do you guys end up coaching through organizations to start taking steps towards being better secured and taking care of the remediation steps?
I think it how do you eat an elephant, right? One
Yep.
bite at a time, right?
One bite at a time.
Start small,
Yeah.
build your
Yeah.
model. How are you going to address it, right? Build that structure to be able to support it, right? And it all starts with, oh no, don't start just throwing controls, because you're gonna have what I like to call orphan controls, right? You need that governance structure behind it. You need your standards, your policies, your procedures that will actually guide you through it, right? And then once you have that structure, it's going to be a lot easier to get there. Now, if you say, oh, I have a compliance requirement that I have to address everything by whenever, right? Let's just start putting the security controls, but you don't have the structure to support it. It just becomes a check mark. Your risk is not down.
Nice. And so the lab behind you, like through that whole thing, being able to give somebody a vision of how that this could all work, from getting the right visibility and then starting to remediation, are you able to demonstrate that with your lab behind you with organizations?
Yes, we can do that. It's pretty cool because, we build, and I might have multiple competing solutions as part of it, right? But part of it is also allowing customers or enabling customers to make a decision based on the qualities of the solutions, not on marketing, right? So the best way for me to learn is hands-on. So I do that for my customer, right? And then it's actually helping them through that journey of understanding how these things work, how do they work together to enabling them to complete their task, right? Whether it is secure access, visibility, segmentation, all of them together, right? How to integrate that data with other systems to be able to, maybe you have, I have a solution that I'm trying to gain awareness of all my assets. I want to build my asset inventory. Well, now let's go ahead and integrate it with your CMDB. Now you can actually have a better position there, because now you have not only your IT assets, but your OT or IoT assets in one page, right? Now you have a better way of looking at it.
I got to ask, is Phosphorus running in that lab behind you?
Yeah.
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 Good.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I put Phosphorus there, and I had some visibility solutions, the passive kind, where you put a sensor, they just look. Well, where I have my actual HMI and PLC over here, it's on unmanaged switch. So the visibility solution is in a managed switch above that, and never saw the PLC or the HMI. Right. So I put Phosphorus there and I let it run. And next time I came and looked at the visibility solution, my asset was there. Why? Because Phosphorus runs through the plane of the visibility solution of that switch from a monitoring segment, and it forces that communication through. And now I'm able to identify and pull it through, right?
Yeah.
And the other piece is, the ability to combine threat detection with that remediation, right? people often ask, well, isn't there an overlap or, a duplication? I'm like, there's a slight overlap, but it's very
Yeah.
minimal. Their core functions are going to be at the ends where they don't,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And that's what I like about it.
Yeah, that's great. We see that too, where kind of on both sides, either the passive solution is given a set of IP addresses we know we can go after, and then the communication that we have when we start going out and looking for devices causes enough traffic that the threat detection side can start picking that up as well. And
Correct.
so, you can see that there's maybe some good synergy in there for organizations as you kind of go through this. So anything like recent exploits that you've seen around xIoT that's kind of caught your eye, or anything that might be interesting?
I mean, there's the recent, which one was it in Ukraine with the heating that was disrupted by frosty goop,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. All
Stuff like
frosty goop,
that.
yes.
Me, I'm not gonna go to necessarily a specific event. To me, that's an example, right? What I'm looking is targeted attacks, right? Where you now are targeting the industrial environment to cause a disruption. Uh,
Right.
you know, I mentioned it earlier, ransomware is rampant, right?
Yeah.
Data exfiltration is rampant. To me, those are probably the biggest threats right now. But then the ones that I'm really keeping an eye on every day is going to be those that are targeted to our environments, right? Now we have to figure out
Right.
how to best protect them, right? This goes back all the way to officially till 2010, right? Um, so we need to get a handle on how to really protect our industrial assets. Granted, most of those compromises come by way of your IT users
Yeah.
and your IT
Yeah.
environments. But now you're looking for very specific pieces of equipment to disrupt that part of the operation.
Right. Very cool. Very cool. So throw yourself out in the future and think, where for this whole xIoT space, what does the industry need to be doing? What do we need to focus on to keep us secure in the future, not just today?
I think I might have mentioned it already. It's be aware. Be aware of your surroundings, right? That continuous awareness, not just point in time, because point
Right.
in time it's only good for that second that you looked at it, right?
Right.
You have a dynamic environment, so you have to ensure
Right.
that you keep up with the changes on those environments, right? When you're looking at OT specifically, right, your manufacturing process or something like that, that might not be very dynamic, but all the
Yeah.
supporting environments, everything that you are going to eventually connect to it will be, right?
Yeah.
You have your industrial IoT, you have your scanners and this and the robots and all that is very, very dynamic. That's constantly changing. Why?
Right.
It's moving. It's moving from one side of
Yeah.
your warehouse to the other. To me,
Yeah.
that's change, right? It's the
Yeah.
location. You have wireless, right? So how do you keep a tab on all that and ensure that you have the appropriate controls to enable your safe and secure operations?
Yeah. That's great. I agree that awareness and where we need to be is a huge focus. Things do change they change quickly, and so having expecting vendors now to be able to help organizations with that continuous monitoring so that I'm always on top of it. Give me solutions that allow me to, at drop of a hat, I can see what I have and I know where I'm vulnerable. And we, as vendors and technology creators, we need to continue to make sure that our game is going in the right direction to be able to make the organizations have immediate information and to make really good decisions on it. So this has been a great conversation, Enrique. 30 minutes goes by like this, but I got one last question for you. So, as you know, our headquarters are in Nashville, and so we're a whole bunch of big, Nashville hot chicken fans. So, for you, what's your favorite regional sandwich, and why isn't it Nashville hot chicken? If it's not,
Regional
what's your favorite
sandwich.
regional?
Well, I
Yeah.
am Puerto Rican, right? So we love our Cuban sandwiches, our
Yeah.
tripletas, stuff like that, right?
Oh, it's
It's very
good. Yes.
difficult to find here where I am, and usually the
Yeah.
ones that I find are copies, not very well done. But I want to say, anything that reminds me of home, wherever I can find it. If not, that means I have to take a trip home and go have it.
There you go. That's good. But now you made me think, oh man, a Cuban sandwich sounds really, really good today. Um, so Enrique, thank you so much. If people want to learn more from you, if they want to be able to hear more about your experience, where's the best place for them to get a hold of you?
Uh, really, WWT.com, search for OT security, and you're going to find me there.
That's awesome.
Enrique.Martinez at WWT.com. We'll be happy to help with any needs we have, whether it is technical or programmatic.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much again. I look forward to our continued relationship, getting to work with you in the future. You had great insights for our audience today. So we really, really appreciate the time. Thank you
No,
so much. And
thank
for
you,
the
Mike.
audience, thank you for joining today. We'll look forward to connecting with you on our next show in a couple of weeks. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.